Well, the issue with fertilizer is important for Nigerians to understand that NPK fertilizer, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium is made of 3 different components. Nigeria has only one, which is nitrogen, ammonium nitrate gas that is piped by subsea pipes from the Niger Delta all the way to its refinery in Lekki. That can only produce urea. It doesn't have phosphates and potassium. I think late last year, Dangote signed an agreement with the government of Togo about exploring phosphates in Togo as a feedstock to be able to add the second component to the 3 components. Now, globally, Morocco, the OCP Morocco has about 70% of all the production output for phosphates in the world. Yeah, and the government of Morocco has a state-owned enterprise called OCP that mines and processes phosphates for distribution. Last year, they made $12 billion. Nigeria has phosphate deposits, but like with every other thing, it's in potential, it's in rocks, it's not mined. The government is not paying attention to it. Dangote needs phosphorus, it needs potassium to be able to produce NPK. Potassium, the major producers in the world are Russia, Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine alone control about 40 to 45% of the global potassium supply, which was the reason why when the war started and the Odessa seaport and the Crimea seaport were blocked and the Black Sea, commercial ships could not navigate around the Black Sea, there were issues going through the Bosporus Channel, which takes ships from that Black Sea out into the Mediterranean. You saw that the price of fertilizer went up, and Canada controls about 35 to 40% of the global supply. So that pressure was on Canada. They could not raise their production output, and the price of fertilizer went up. So you see that with the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative that is managed by the NSIA, you see that they have problems with the cost of phosphorus and potassium, which are the 2 components for blending fertilizer. About 72 blending plants in Nigeria for fertilizer. They have problems with the exchange rate. They have problems with the cost of it that went up. And that's the reason why the price of fertilizer, for example, went up from 11,500 naira per bag to somewhere around between 30 to 32,000 naira today. I expect that if anything happens to the exchange rate further, the price will continue to go up. So we can't really say that, the Dangote fertilizer plant came on and fertilizer price has not improved, because a lot of people don't understand that the raw material for actually making fertilizer, all of it is not available in Nigeria. Nigeria only has about 30% of the raw materials.
So if you listen closely to that video, you would have picked a few things that are of utmost importance concerning the whole fertilizer or urea industry in Nigeria. So Nigeria right now is a huge exporter of urea. So in case you do not know that we're not self-sufficient in fertilizer production, you're not alone. I too, before watching the video, was very ignorant of this fact. Okay, that urea is very, very different from fertilizer. In fact, urea, which is a byproduct of ammonia, is just about 30 to 35% of the major components needed for fertilizer production. Now, Nigeria has an abundance of ammonia because we have an abundance of gas. So our urea comes in as raw as ammonium nitrate, which is then converted to urea in the fertilizer plant. And then we need potassium and phosphate to blend to form fertilizer, which was already highlighted by Mr. Kelvin in that interview. So what I want to look at is not what he has spoken about, but some other things that what the private sector is doing, what the federal government is doing under the NSIA, and the future implications of certain factories coming up, online and running at maximum capacity. So when the NBS, the National Bureau of Statistics, last year released its annual report concerning non-oil export, we saw the graph for non-oil export reach an unprecedented high. Okay, it has never been this high in Nigeria's history since we started keeping records of our export. So the NEPC, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, came out to say that for its 47-year history, we have never exported the amount of non-oil exports we saw last year in Nigeria's recorded history, which is a huge one, of which urea accounted for over 32% of our total non-oil export, raking in about 810 billion naira, valued at over $4 billion into the country as revenue. So this is the amount of potential our current fertilizer or urea industry has. Now, many of you would think I would try to say that, oh, Dangote was the major, will I say, stakeholder in the whole fertilizer revolution. And shockingly, the answer is no. In fact, sometime this year, I was also surprised to find out of a fertilizer plant in River State in Port Harcourt, known as the Indorma Eleme, petrochemicals plant. This is a petrochemical fertilizer plant located in River State that went ahead to expand their facility and expand their plant to become the largest fertilizer plant in Nigeria. Okay, Dangote seeks to produce about 3 million metric tons of urea or fertilizer if it has the other parts per annum. While this plant at an expanded capacity is supposed to pull in 3.5 million metric tons of urea or fertilizer if they can import the other product annually. So, it has over 500,000 metric tons more than Dangote. Okay, but we cannot speak right now for its efficiency, but what you should know that it is not run by Nigeria. It is run by foreign investors who are investing in the country. So these guys alone raked in a lot of money in for the country. Now, the NSI, the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, had gone ahead to sign a deal with OCP. Okay, OCP is the world's largest fertilizer company, that is found in Morocco. Morocco technically is the leading global power for fertilizer production in Nigeria, or you may call it phosphate production, not just fertilizer, but phosphate, because it has about 70% of the world's phosphate deposited in Morocco. So it has gone ahead to actually mine a lot of phosphate and is the leading producer of phosphate in the world. Okay, about 70% of global production comes from Morocco. So we went ahead to sign a deal with Morocco in order to establish a plant in Nigeria that will import Morocco's phosphate and blend it with Nigeria's urea in order to produce phosphate fertilizers. Now, as I speak to you right now, a factory is being set up in Akwa Ibom, Nigeria, to be more specific, in Ikotobasi. And why am I so happy? I'm from Ikotobasi, and this plant is being set up in my backyard. I personally have, footage, not on my device, but I've seen footage. I know people, hundreds of people who are working at that site, in a place called Okobodi in Ete, in Ikotobasi local government. Now, work has been going on there for a very long time. I'm very happy that the national project is being undertaken in my village, in my backyard. That would bring a lot of investment opportunities to my city and to my town. So this is a $1.5 billion project that is being undertaken between OCP and Nigeria. So once this plant is being set up, its expected date of completion is about 2025. We're not sure of the quarter when this job is supposed to be completed, but we are looking at 2025 for this plant to be up and running. Now, at full capacity, this fertilizer plant in Okobodi in Ete is supposed to produce 750,000 metric tons of ammonia on an annual basis. By the time we bring in the phosphate we're going to bring in from Morocco, it's going to help us produce 1 million metric tons of phosphate fertilizers. Why phosphate fertilizers? What we have is nitrogen in form of urea or ammonium nitrate, and what we're importing is phosphorus, or you may call it phosphate. So we're going to have NP, ammonium phosphate fertilizers. Now, what we lack is potassium. Okay. Now, if you listen closely to the video, Mr. Kelvin actually mentioned a very obvious issue in the country, which is the fact that we have phosphates in the country, in Sokoto. In fact, it is being reported that the phosphate found in Morocco actually begins from around the middle belt in Benue, Nasarawa, moves up north to Sokoto, and then travels down to Morocco. So the in the northern border, we border with Niger Republic, then Algeria, then west of Algeria is Morocco. So typically, countries in the northern hemisphere of the African continent would have an amazing amount of phosphate in the ground. So Nigeria has about 1.5 billion tons of phosphate undeveloped. Now, no government has ever developed phosphate in Nigeria. Okay, but this present government is actually putting some things into place to actually begin to produce phosphate. So some of the things that the president directed the NSI, which is the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, to do last year, 2022, was to begin to look into local phosphate production and to begin to put the works in place in order to present a kind of plan or roadmap that will be very attractive to foreign investors to come set up a mega billion-dollar phosphate plant in Nigeria. So a lot of work is being put into place in order for us to begin to mine the phosphate that is, endowed or entrapped in the Nigerian soils, majorly located in the northern region of the country. So Sokoto will be in the northwest, and that's where we can find a lot of phosphate, including the middle belt of the country. So as you can see from this video, we have the private sector putting the effort. We have the LMA, the Indoma fertilizer plant in LMA in Port Harcourt. We have Dangote fertilizer plant. Then we have over 47 fertilizer plant and about 72 blending plants in Nigeria. Okay, this goes ahead to show that a lot has been put in by this administration in order to lay a favorable framework for fertilizer production to kickstart in the country. So once we start mining phosphate, we're going to see an increase in the value chain of the fertilizers we are producing in the country, so as to reduce the amount of import of NPK into the country and to increase the money we make from exporting fertilizers. Now, in the nearest future, it will be as ammonium phosphate. So if you know anyone who wants to invest in the country and is really thinking, oh, where's the market, where's the demand? So people need to come and invest in our phosphate, material, because that's where the demand is right now in the country. So this we're going to end it for this video. I'm sure that you've seen from the video that a lot is being put into place to help Nigeria actually produce NPK fertilizers, which is what we need to sustain local demand and even begin to export, for the country. So I would like to tell us right here on this channel that we've established handles on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. So please, I would like you to go ahead and like, my channel on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, which is my handle is Edikanobot, which is my name, on these different social media handles. So please like it and follow us. On these other channels, we can actually drop, breaking news, that cannot be recorded as videos, so to keep you up to date with developments going on in the country. So do well to avail yourself with this information that will be on these different handles, and like, share, and support us in any way as you can. So we're going to wrap it up here on this episode of the video. Thank you for sticking thus far with us, and we hope that you've received value and enjoyed watching this program. Until we see again, remember to tell a friend that you're a Nigerian, and Godspeed.